You told me we wouldn't be talking about him with his resume, his experience, his age, what he's done, his accomplishments, if he were a white guy.
That's right.
And the left now wants your head on a platter as a racist.
And you know what happened? The question came at this event that was a paid speech. I don't represent the somebody said to me, "Are you going to stop speaking?" I said, "What are you, nuts? They don't ask me to speak because I've endorsed Hillary." I said, "What am I going to do?" I said, "I do this. This is what I do for a living." And people ask me my opinion because I ran for vice president. They ask my opinion because I was part of a historic campaign. I haven't seen a historic campaign.
Is it your opinion that we're only talking about him because he's black?
Well, no. I said, they said to me, could you tell me why he is as a nominee at this point where it's such a close race? And I said, to be quite frank, part is because he is black. And let me go back and let me tell you what I said before. I said, before I comment totally on this, let me tell you that in 1984, if my name were Geraldine Ferraro instead of Geraldine Ferraro, I would never have been the nominee.
You said that on this program, too. I just played that soundbite.
So it was not something I said. And I said that ahead of time. I've been saying that for 23 years. It doesn't mean, John, hold on a minute. It doesn't mean that I thought that I couldn't do the job. Of course I could do the job, or I wouldn't have accepted the nomination. I thought I could be not only a good vice president, I thought I could be a better Vice President George Bush. And to be quite frank, I've also said that if I'd been Vice President for 8 years, we wouldn't be talking now about is the country ready for a president. I would have run for president in 1992. But that aside, I then said, undoubtedly somebody's going to be charging me with being racist. But, look at how people have turned out. It's exciting. It is a historic candidacy.
Geraldine, come on. If Barack Obama is elected president, will it be because he's black?
No. You asked how he is at this point in the nominating process. That's because, in large measure, because the black community is as proud of his candidacy as I am, and as a lot of women are of Hillary's candidacy.
But are white people like you being threatened with the racist smear if you don't support Obama?
Well, no. What David Axelrod has chosen to do is, and he's the campaign manager, and it really annoys me because David Axelrod never called me a racist when he asked me to come out and do a commercial for Freddie Ferrer, who is Hispanic and running for mayor in the city. And I did it. Freddie's a good friend of mine. Freddie, I had confidence. Freddie would have been a fabulous mayor. All of a sudden, and Axelrod didn't call me racist when he had me come in and do some work for Carl McCall when he was running for governor, African American, for the benefit of your readers who don't know, listeners who don't know. I was there helping. I was never called racist in my entire life. If you look at my record, it's
so why are they doing this?
Because whenever they don't like what somebody says, they put this spin on it that by saying whatever you're saying, that you're actually talking about the competency of the candidate. And to be quite frank, when I said that I would never have been chosen in 1984, I wasn't talking about my competency, and I'm not talking about his competency. It's garbage. It's this racist thing, and what happens, unfortunately, is that people turn around and shut up. The New York Times asked me today, are you going to stop talking? Are you going to stop speaking? I said, what are you, crazy? I have a First Amendment right. I'm entitled to say what I want, and I will not be intimidated. I think that's very racist.
Do you think somebody's trying to intimidate you?
Absolutely.
And do you think they're trying to...
Why else would they do this?
Well, I mean, okay, then why are they doing it? Listen, Geraldine, I'm asking you this because I get this all the time. Because if you're a white person talking about a black person, you're a racist. End of story.
Well, I mean, if a black person talks about a white person, is that not also racist? Racism goes two different directions.
Is it racism that 90% of black people vote for a black candidate?
No, it's pride. I wish we could get 90% of women. Unfortunately, a lot of black women are voting for Barack.
But if all white people voted for a white candidate, that would be racism, wouldn't it?
Well, I assume that somebody would raise it. I wouldn't raise that issue. I would assume that if they were voting for a woman...
Then why does it work the other way?
You know what? I don't know. You can't ask me that. I don't think it's racism in either
You
direction.
got yourself into this, Geraldine.
You know what? I have to tell you something. Axelrod has the wrong one. He had coming out as surrogates Susan Rice, a person I served with on the board of the National Democratic Institute and have for several. She's just come on rather recently. I've been on for that board for 20 years. She should go back and look at my record. I'm about as far from racist as anybody could possibly be. If he thinks for 1 minute I will stop raising money for her, you know me. This is the impetus to get me to raise more. I'm going to figure out how I can raise even more money. And Axelrod has got to be, if he really believes his candidate is going to be the nominee, he has got to start thinking about the general election. Because in the general election, he he's going to come back to people like me. Oh,
Geraldine, it's more than people like you. You're a big, important person. They got to come to you. You raise funds. You were the nominee for the vice president. But there's many white women out there and white men like you who had that same statement in their mind that you actually made in public to the media, and you're getting yelled at. And these people are now saying, oh, look what happens to Geraldine Ferraro. If she says something like that, I think something like that too. Now I'm a racist because she's been called a racist.
Well, the only thing is I wish they would deal with it the way I am, which is stand up and don't let anybody put a label on you that doesn't exist and is not true. And this is being done. I have to tell you, did you take a look in today's New York Times? There is an article, an op-ed piece by a Harvard professor who took the 3 o'clock in the morning ad and with some sort of convoluted reasoning,
I read
because there was this blonde kid was in it, and there were two kids who looked dark. He said, oh, they must be Spanish. And so what he did was he said, there's an undercurrent of racism in that ad, and they should put, come on.
Geraldine, you've got to get with the program. You obviously don't understand racism today. It is being redefined right under your feet.
Nobody understands it more than I do. I have to tell you, we always talk about black, white, and all the rest of this stuff. You know, there is also reverse racism in this country, and as I've gotten older, I've begun to watch it. But I have to tell you, when my grandparents came here, they came from Italy. A lot of Italians were dark-skinned. If you want to know about racism, they could talk to you a little bit about it. Wasn't as bad as it was with blacks, no doubt about it. But they were treated awfully. So do we understand it? Do we don't, I believe in this stuff. What's in their heart, not the color of their
Geraldine, I just one last thing here. I'm just predicting this for you and just want to get on the record. If you think you're going to get away with equating dark-skinned Italian people.
Not. That's not what I'm doing.
They're going to quote crop you on this one as well.
No,
I'll be there to defend you.
Except that's not what I'm doing.
I know, but
the thing about it is you can suffer racism on different levels, and I've just said that there are different levels. Not only have I fought this entire life, my children, my grandchildren, we don't see this stuff.
Geraldine Ferraro, I got to run. Geraldine, thanks very much. Hang in there, Geraldine.
John Gibson of Fixed News, today's worst person in the world.
Always striving to be the worst to bathtub boy.
You should crawl off into a hole and die.
But the best to you. You're listening to John Gibson.